JB here. JB here. Hold on one second. Hope everyone's doing outstanding. Friday, December 5th, 3:33. Just a really quick rant here. I'll talk about the market, some names I'm looking at go from there. S&P in the green here, up about 0.2%. Looks like pending any last 27-minute pull, markets will end the week in the green. And then we march on to the next week's Fed meeting on Wednesday. Crazy week. Well, not in terms of trades. I didn't make a ton of trades, but made the trades I did make panned out pretty well outside of RH. And then it's like I'm a little cautious heading into today. And probably on the flip side, I should have been a little more aggressive, and the week would have been just spectacular. But still, solid week early this morning. So let's see here. I don't have my minute chart. Just one sec. Sorry, folks. Uh, okay. So PC data came out at 10 o'clock, so no surprise. Old data, right? I made a joke, it was kind of like 2024 PC data, but I thought it was going to come out this morning. So markets kind of opened flat, found the lows in the morning, and then that was it, all the way up to 688 by 11 o'clock or so. Chopped around, then back down to 686, and we've been chopping around ever since. Uh, at the open, I was looking at some names to play lottos, kind of sat pat for a minute, and then I'm looking at some of the names I really like in Duolingo, which is a name that I have the 205 still. I played those last week, the 220s. I still think it could be one of those names that bounces into the end of the year and start 2026. I was looking for some strikes, so the 240s for next week, expensive, not expensive, looked inexpensive, but have to get a big move, right? With the stock trading, I think it was like 196 or so when I was looking at the calls. So I went and got those 225s, and then boom, it takes off within a matter of, I don't know, 20 minutes, all the way up to the 200s. Lock those in for 100% to cover costs, and then I'll hold on to those. Um, Sorry, and then Reddit this morning. Sorry, I'm just trying to trying to get my bearings here on the chart. Sorry about that. And then Reddit this morning, so kind of opened flat, and boom, that one took off. So sorry, folks. So I still had the 235, so I was watching those. And then I want to make sure I have exposure to next week. I think at some point, again, there's going to be some licensing agreement, either a new one with Google, revamp one, OpenAI, Microsoft, and all these companies. You have to think there's licensing deals that are on the table at some point with Reddit. And when that news hits, I think the stock will be up 7, 10, 15%. So I went and got those 260s into next week. I was looking earlier this week for maybe December 19th 280s, but I thought the 260s offer decent risk reward. Didn't have to pay $2 or whatever. And then also I still had the 235. So Reddit took off once it broke that 231 handle. It was having trouble with it earlier in the week, all the way up to 236. Closed some of those 260s out for close to 100%, and then it kept going. Closed some more out for over 100%. And then I locked those 235s, which unfortunately, the 235s, I don't know if it was Wednesday or Tuesday, they were like $4 or $5. Can't complain, was able to get the rest out for 100%. And then I'll just ride free into the weekend with Reddit. I was posted as a joke on FinTwit. The S&P, I think it's every quarter. I don't know if it's like August, December, but the first Friday of the month, there's a typically an addition and deletion news for the S&P 500. It's not a guarantee, but after the close today, there's going to be names that might be added to the S&P. Carvana, Marvel, I think is some of the candidates up there. I'm trying to think of some of the other names that are on the list. Reddit meets the threshold, right? I think you have to be an IPO. You can't be a recent IPO. You have to have profits. I don't know the exact requirements, but Reddit meets it. I don't think anybody's expecting Reddit to be added. I don't, my probability for them getting is low, but if they do get added, stock's gonna be up 10% heading into Monday. So with the licensing, the possibility of being added to the S&P, I don't want to be in a spot where I don't have calls heading into next week. So that was the thought process there on Reddit. So riding free profits. All right, so that's Reddit, that's Duolingo, and then take a look at Deck. Deck took that breather, and again, I'm having issues with my charts. Deck took that breather on, was it Tuesday? Maybe it was Wednesday. And then even when it was moving up on yesterday and Wednesday, the premiums weren't going up much on the call. So it was kind of frustrating, almost frustrating to the point where I was going to lock the 105s in. But yesterday afternoon, right after the run, I locked some in for 70% or so. And then this morning, the 105s finally started to get some premiums, locked some more in for over 100%. And they're sitting up here $1 by $1.15. So I'll just keep holding those, have 2 weeks left until expiration. I put on a watch list. I was looking possibly to get some Januaries. The January 120s looked interesting, but I feel like it's been like a battle, and those are only 55 by 65. Uh, at least right now, the January 120. So maybe if get a chance next week, lock the rest of those December strikes in, or just hold those and get the January 120s. That's a possibility. So that's that. And also you have to take into account the S&P. I think is going to be up 8 of the past 9 sessions. One, two, three. The Nasdaq's up like 9 of the past 10 sessions. At some point, there's going to be a pull, right? And I don't want to be some of the worst days when you're sitting pretty on all these positions, and then the next day we have a gap down on 1% and you get destroyed. It's like a miserable day. I don't want to have a miserable day. So that's kind of the thought process of not holding too much stuff into the weekend. All right, so that's Duolingo, that's Deck, that's Reddit. Kodak, right? So Unknown Blood, who's been in chat for years, posted. He's been on fire this week. Posted a lot of nice trades in the chat room. I don't know if he's on the audio right now, but brought up Kodak. And Kodak's a name I watched over the summer. DCZZ posted about Kodak earlier this year as well, and it's like an interesting name, right? I mean, it's one of those nostalgic brands. It's a name that was in prominence, right? Everybody had a digital camera, but now it would that was supplanted. But they have other things. They have like a chemicals business. They have other means of revenues, but they also have other issues, debt. They have like I think they have pension obligations. So there's a lot of moving parts with that name, which is the reason why it's got a 10% short interest and it's kind of been stuck in the muck, right? But then I was reading an article over the summer about the CEO of, I think it was in Forbes, and then just other stuff. So it's always a name that kind of like catches my eye. So Unknown Blood posted yesterday and watched it's like 850. I'm like, it looks interesting, but I haven't done enough due diligence. I'm not just going to get calls on the name just because, right? So I did a little more reading overnight this morning, and then I'm watching and started to get a bid, and then boom, I get the calls, and I'm not going to pat myself on the back here, but right after I get the calls, it took off 860, 870, 880. Here's my little chart here. Some of that, right? So they call it gamma squeeze, right? So when you have an illiquid name and people are piling into the calls, the market makers have to cover themselves, right? At some point, doesn't have to be right when it happens, but some people call it gamma squeeze. So whether that is or not, I don't know. It just started to go bonkers. So, I got those $10 strikes within a matter of 20 minutes. I was able to close them out for close to 100%. I'll just hold the rest. I'd have to do more research over the weekend. It's one of those names that could be a meme stock at some point, right? So you can't rule that out. At the same token, it's been kind of lackluster. Do I have a monthly chart? I don't have my monthly chart here, or daily. It could be stuck in a rut for the next couple months. So I don't want to go out and get January calls and be sitting there watching those strikes just bidless for 2 months. So maybe I'll add some more strikes if I can find more conviction to trade. But for now, thankful to make money on that one. Kodak. And I'm trying to think of some of the other names. Of course, watching Sandisk today. Making the joke. Here's Kodak and then Sandisk. Back in the day, you bought a digital camera and you had to get memory, and who supplied the memory? Sandisk, right? 1 MB. I forget but the irony now is here we are. Fast forward and Kodak and Sandisk, right? Just fun. I find it kind of funny. It kind of went full circle, I guess you would say. But needless to say, Sandisk kind of frustrating this week. I should have had a little more conviction watching those lottos yesterday morning. I remember the 220s were like 80 cents. They went up to like $9 earlier today. Then I was watching the 225s earlier today. You can't fault yourself, right? I mean, if I was a little more aggressive today, obviously I could have looked at Sandisk. And then what was the other names I was watching here? Oh, Lemonade, right? That bull flags looks like it's breaking out. And I'm looking at those December 19th, 95 strikes. Almost pulled the trigger. I think they were 85 cents. And the instant I was going to get them, it drops from $80 down to 76. And now it's bounced back up to 79. I'll wait until next week. Again, that doesn't make sense to be overly aggressive. Hopefully I'll get a better, or at least another opportunity to get some strikes there. I think that's it. Serve Robotics. Here it is at 1335. I was still looking to get some more January, March calls. I'll just sit on my hands for now. So volatile, right? Up to 1381, 11 o'clock. And then just been chopping around ever since. And then sometimes you see these candles. It dropped from 1360 to 1310 in a matter of 20 minutes. And it's like in the back of my head, some short piece, some one of these bear folks are going to come out on the name. That's just things I've seen on some of the stocks I've traded over the years. That it just happens, right? And then other names, Pool, disappointing. I mean, Wednesday was sitting there at 251. I thought I was ready to go. Almost had my calls out for 100%, and it's been slow. It's like a slow death. Down another 1.2% here today, 238. Still hopeful. 2 weeks left on those calls. Same with Biogen. Biogen was actually in the green earlier, but it's been chopping around. I think that's it, folks. I'm watching VKTX yesterday. So many names, so little time, and not only that, you have to manage positions, the risk. So all those different factors. To me, sometimes it's like when you get your hands on too many things. You'll be doing great for a couple of days, and then one day you'll get destroyed. And I just don't want done that too many times. Don't want to be in that position. So, hence the smaller trading this week. All right, let's have a great weekend, folks. I'll be back. Rock and roll.